Hello and welcome back. This is ProTaleDev back with another Dungeon Farm Tycoon game. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going over all the different things I've been working on behind the scenes since our last video, and there is quite a lot. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so the first thing I want to show off is the fact that there's this section here, and this is actually a dungeon editor which I've done. Similar to how the land is edited, it's going to be the dungeon editor. But I'll show that last. First of all, let's go back to the very basics, things that I've changed that are in the island. So the first thing you're going to notice immediately is that there are more icons, more information, and more details. Let's start off with the very basic. So what we've done now is a cost and description. When you mouse over an island item, it'll actually tell you what you got. So right now, if I hover over this, you can see just below it right here is the information about the item you're about to click on. So it's a bungalow, it's +1 housing, and you can see the cost of it. I've done this for all of the base island editor items in the shop. So everything up to this line here has been done. So if I hover over this weapon shop, this weapon stall, you see +2 gold, and then you get a cost of 25. You go further up, it's weapon store, weapons large store, and weapon market. And you can see the same thing for these. So we've got a reservoir and water, which is a water well, and which adds more resources, different things. So I think you get the point. Basically, you can now see how much you're going to earn and what's going to give. The next thing I want to talk about is that the prices have now been changed and edited a little bit more, because some of the prices are actually wrong. And when I delete things, the amount of gold you get was wrong, and the amount of items need to be a little bit more balanced. That includes, like I mentioned here with these weapons, before it was randomized between how much gold you would get. I've decided to change that because the progress of gaining gold was so slow, and it also meant that by having it random, having a low or a high number, there would be inconsistencies in how you're generating gold, and I think it made it difficult for the player to anticipate how much they were earning. I've also done the correct resource, adding it to the top section. So before, what we had is it just kind of a lot of it wasn't finished. Now when you add buildings, you will get more housing. When you add water, you will get more water generation, and if you add dungeons, you will get more citizens. So to show that off, we can quickly go into our game manager. I've also increased the cap of items for each one, so that you can have more gold and earnings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the, hopefully you can see this okay, you can see that we've got a lot more gold now. So if I press this and I hover over the same objects we had before, which are now available, we can actually increase them. So we're going to choose the highest one, which is the tower for the housing, and you should see the housing up here go up when I click it. So the next thing I want to show you is the fact that when you click on these, you'll actually see a grid layout, which is quite nice. It's very important to be able to see where you can place, and I think the grid really helps. Let's say that we put this tower right here, which is next to a path. You should see the housing go up, which it did. It went straight up to 10 from 2. So it's added to 8, which is exactly what it should have been. And now 8 people can actually stay and continue adventuring here. We can also delete them like before, and there's no real issue. And we can do the same thing with water and food. So put that there because it wasn't close enough to the path. So yeah, that means that now we can actually place things with the grid. So the next thing you're going to notice straight away is the fact that I've removed the rating from adventurers. So no longer will adventurers actually contribute to the rating of the overall island. The reason for this is because in the last video I mentioned that I changed the happiness, the satisfaction, and rating in general. So instead, adventurers will now give a rating, a satisfaction number, and a percentage based on their happiness. This meant that the rating of the island didn't really make any difference. So instead I've changed it so that the rating now means what is actually on the island in terms of buildings, food, the upgrades, things like that, and how many sceneries here. So if we just start deleting a bunch of, let me just get rid of that. If we just start deleting a bunch of scenery, we'll notice our rating will go down. Sorry if you can hear the clicking, it's a bit loud. I have a loud mouse. So you'll notice straight away that our rating is dropping down significantly. Low rating means that there's going to be less people that are actually coming onto the island, which is really bad. So higher rating is going to be really important, and scenery is one of the cheapest way to do that because it's only like 10 gold, and that'll probably vary based on what is actually being placed. So flowers is probably going to be a lot lower gold, but less maybe rating. We'll see. So now the scenery feels like it's a lot more diverse and important. Of course, the rating will go up based on what type of shops you have, and this will be a bit more of an incentive to have better shops as opposed to just upgrading lower ones. But if I just keep adding all of these scenery in it, you can see our rating is going through the roof, but we're running out of space to put actually anything, and scenery can only take you so far. So now we got 224, so our amount of people that are coming into the island should be increased based on 200%, 100, up to 1,000. Our rating maximum is 1,000. So next thing I want to cover is food and water now has a current resource instead of a static resource, and it will be consumed based on the population size. This might be a little bit difficult to understand. Luckily, when you place an object, you can actually see now a resource bar. So if I just zoom in here and then bring this up, you can actually see that our food and our water is actually being consumed. It's generating one food and one resource based on, I think it's a certain amount of time. And this means that the more that there is, the more that will generate. And you can see actually our number up here. So we got 14 food and 9 water. These get consumed at different rates, so just like in real life, water is actually much more in demand than food is, and they are being consumed by adventurers at a certain time based on the population. This is going to be really important if you want to expand your island and expand your industry and our dungeons. You're going to need a higher population, and you're going to get a higher population with more dungeons, and this means you're going to need to produce more food and water. And this will quickly, we just got in the minus. So this is a good thing to mention as well, is that now we're in the minus. We got less food, less water. We have consumed a little bit of food, but water has just gone massively down, so we're not producing enough from the well. And this is really bad if it gets into a minus. If it hits minus, it means that the happiness will drop from all adventurers. So it's a really, really dangerous thing, because obviously lower happiness means they're going to leave early, and they're most likely not going to want to stay. They won't improve experience, and then you'll just keep getting newer low level experience. The whole point of the island is to get more people to stay so that they have higher experience and then a less chance of dying, which will produce more gold. If they're unhappy and they just leave, then you're just going to get new people coming in, because remember, there is a maximum cap on how many people can be in the island based on the dungeon size. So yeah, before it was just producing a certain amount of water or food, and depending on how much water or food there was would depend on what the adventurers would do. Now it's more so that they consume those resources and they are generated. And I think this is a little bit more of an interactive way of handling food and water in this game. So the next thing I want to talk about is the, like I said, you've got the charge UI, and I'll probably do that again. But you'll see straight away that while I'm hovering over the island, you can now see when I'm actually hovering over the island by using this icon above. Now there'll be 2 other icons with it, which it determines if we're in the dungeon editor. But right now there's the land icon, which probably will change. But basically, when you hover over an island, you can now tell if you can use the editor or not. So if you can place something. It's also been fixed because there was a lot of collision issues, and that was partly my fault because I was making the collisions overcomplicated. But now the collisions are working correctly, so you won't get issues where you have to constantly switch between land and water in order to try and click something. Next is the art. So we now have some dungeon art, and this is now time to move on to the really big thing that's happened that I've been working on since the last update, and that is the dungeon editor. So first thing, let's actually just go there. So you'll see that we've got these 3 buttons here: start adventure, end adventure, exit dungeon, and edit dungeon. Now first thing I'm going to click is edit dungeon, and we end up here. This is our new dungeon area that we can now click on. You can see the icons at the top right just above here, and these are the icons to tell you if you can place something. So right now we can't place anything, we're outside the area. Now we can place a dungeon piece. Again, the icon probably will change. And if we're hovering over a dungeon room, which is a new item that you can place down, a new structure, you won't be able to place an item. So we've got quite a lot of gold on us at the moment. Let's have a look at some of these items. So in this section we have our different categories. So we have dungeon connectors, we have dungeon rooms, we have dungeon decorations, and we have the dungeon monsters. The way this is going to work is that the player will be able to basically place any of these down, just like in the island. They're going to be able to place any of these parts down to build their own dungeon. There will be a limit to how much they can place down and what they can do. However, you can also place down these rooms, you can place down these decorations and monsters will be a spawn point, and the player can basically build their dungeon how they want. Or I might have an option to automatically generate it based on players' choice, players' options in some kind of UI. So with that, the player can place all these different objects down. Some things aren't done, and that's because I haven't quite finished the placement exactly. There's still a lot of things that need to be done. Some placements aren't correct, like this one. They're slightly off by a little bit, and some parts aren't working 100%. And that's just because I've only just finished the placement to a degree. So the other thing is I want to quickly mention, like that one's out of place, but again I know the issue, I just need to quickly fix it, and I'll do that after this video. The next thing you can do is, let's say that you've edited your dungeon, you're happy with it, you can then exit your dungeon, and then you can now go and start adventure. So this is where you're going to get some of your more interactive aspects of the game generating gold. So this generates gold very, very slowly. You get gold from shops and stuff, but really what you want to do is you actually want to go in these dungeons and actually play for yourself and attack. Let's get rid of this shop for a second. That'll happen automatically, you won't have the shop option when you're in here. So what you can actually do here is you can actually attack monsters and go around your dungeon. Again, it's not quite finished yet, so there's still a lot of blocking and collision issues, but you will be able to attack monsters and generate your own gold. There's going to be lots of different things like potions and things like that, so it's going to be really fun. So yeah, that's what we got so far. A huge overhaul on how a lot of these resources work, as well as an increase in the shop and the new dungeon editor, which I'm very, very happy with. However, obviously there's still a lot of bugs that need to be fixed. There's still a lot of issues of them not being placed in the correct area, and there's still an issue with items not being highlighted or being the correct size, like this, which needs to be a different size. This has been ProTaleDev, and I'll see you next time.